Look at your hands for a second.
Like right now.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, if you're not driving or, holding something fragile, just hold your hands up in front of your face.
And I'm doing it.
Okay, so look at your palms, look at the lines, the texture of the skin, the way your knuckles bend.
Right.
Usually when we talk about human biology in these deep dives, we think of this stuff as just, well, flesh and bone.
Right. Oh, absolutely. It's just a highly evolved meat suit, basically.
Exactly. A meat suit that just carries our brain around. You scrape your hand, it bleeds. You use it to pick up your coffee cup or, type on a keyboard. It feels entirely mechanical.
It feels very solid.
Right, solid.
Yeah, I mean, it's the ultimate Newtonian machine in most people's eyes.
Yeah.
We've been trained for centuries, really, to view the human body as this collection of levers and pulleys and pumps and pipes.
Oh, for sure.
Like the heart is a pump, the veins are pipes, the bones are structural beams. It's a very industrial way of looking at ourselves.
Which is, it's comforting in a way, right? Because we understand machines, we build machines.
We do. But the stack of transdisciplinary research we are diving into today completely upends that industrial worldview.
Completely shatters it.
Yeah. What if I told you that you are looking at your hands completely wrong? What if those hands aren't just mechanical tools made of meat?
This is the crazy part.
Right. What if they are actually highly tuned biological antennas?
Antennas.
Yeah, antennas that are capable of transmitting and receiving coherent light, acoustic vibrations, and electrical signals, right down to the atomic level.
It's honestly hard to wrap my head around because it just shatters that illusion of the solid, isolated body. And that's really what makes this material so paradigm shifting for our deep dive today.
It forces us to realize that we are porous to the universe in ways we are only just beginning to mathematically prove.
And we are mapping what the source texts refer to as the biogeal.
The biogeal, yes.
Let's pause on that term for a second because it's basically the anchor for everything we are going to talk about today. It's this brilliant portmanteau, right?
Yeah, of biology and the French word for software, logiciel.
Right. So the biological software. We are looking at this groundbreaking framework known as the Echoes of the Prism of Odysseys. And today we are doing an exclusive zoom on a specific text in that framework called Extension XXSV.
Extension 35, right.
Yeah.
And the mission today is to understand this biological software not as a metaphor.
Not a metaphor at all.
No, as a hard physical reality.
And context is so vital here because previous extensions in this research, they mapped the software at what we would call macroscopic and physiological levels.
Right, like movement, trauma transmission, basic biochemistry, epigenetics.
Yeah, exactly. Those are like the macro programs running on the software. But this specific extension descends much, much deeper. It goes into the submolecular.
It takes us down to the angstrom.
The angstrom, which is, what is that, 1/10,000,000th of a meter?
Exactly. We are going to the level of the atom. We are looking at the unified physics of the living, right, where biology physically meets fundamental physics.
And before we get into the heavy science of it all, I really want to frame why this matters to you, the listener, because we live in a world that just aggressively separates things.
We love putting things in boxes.
We do. We separate the mind from the body. If you have anxiety, you see a psychiatrist. If you have a broken arm, you see an orthopedic surgeon.
And we separate the body from fundamental physics almost entirely.
Yes. We leave fundamental physics to the people, building quantum computers or studying black holes.
But the material we are unpacking today proves that our biological software isn't just some poetic New Age idea about feeling connected to the universe.
Right.
It is a measurable physical reality operating through highly specific scientific registers. It means the boundary between you and the physical universe it doesn't actually exist in the way you think it does. You are an open system.
Okay, so I want to start our descent into the atom with something that completely caught me off guard in the research, and that is the idea that our bodies actively absorb and process light.
Yes. Chromophores.
Yeah, because obviously our eyes process light, that's how we see. But the text talks about molecules called chromophores existing all over and inside our bodies.
Everywhere.
And when I hear about living things absorbing light, my brain immediately goes to plants. I think of, a leaf doing photosynthesis. I do not think of human beings. So what exactly is a chromophore doing in a human body?
Well, at its most basic chemical level, a chromophore is simply a part of a molecule. Specifically, it's a functional group of atoms that absorbs specific wavelengths of light.
Okay.
And that can be visible light or invisible light, like ultraviolet or infrared. When that chromophore absorbs a photon, which is just a tiny packet of light energy, it doesn't just warm up.
It does something else.
Yeah, the energy from that photon literally excites the electrons in the chromophore. And that physical excitation triggers a signal transduction cascade in the cell.
Okay, signal transduction cascade. In plain English, what does that mean?
It basically means it takes the electromagnetic energy of the universe and translates it to biological information inside the living cell.
Okay, so it's like a biological receiver.
Exactly.
And the sources mentioned this isn't exactly brand new science, right? It says this has been documented since 1876.
That's right. A scientist named Franz Boll discovered retinal rhodopsin way back in 1876.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the light-sensitive pigment in our eyes that allows us to see in low light. But for a very long time, the scientific consensus was essentially, well, the eyes have chromophores for vision, and maybe the skin has melanin.
Right, melanin's another chromophore, right?
Exactly, to absorb UV light to stop our DNA from getting fried by the sun. We thought of them as these highly specialized, isolated tools with very limited jobs. Vision and sunblock.
Vision and sunblock, yeah. But the sources point out that modern science has found them everywhere. We're talking about molecules with names like cryptochrome and phytochrome and melanopsin in the skin, and even cytochromes deep inside our mitochondria.
That's the wild part.
It is. The mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, literally has light receptors inside of it. That completely changes the paradigm. I mean, why does my cellular engine need a light receptor?
It needs it because these chromophores are ubiquitous. And they aren't just passive shields or cameras. The text introduces this really fascinating concept called intentional chromophory.
Intentional chromophory.
Right. Because we have these light receptors embedded deep in our cellular machinery, they are trainable. They are actually modifiable based on our deliberate exposure to specific wavelengths of light. We can literally program our cells using light.
I need to make sure I'm wrapping my head around this. How can we intentionally train our biological software using light? Give me a concrete example of this in action.
Sure. Let's look at a field called low-level laser therapy, or LLT. It's also known as photobiomodulation.
Photobiomodulation, okay.
The source cites Michael Hamlin's 2017 work on this. If you take specific wavelengths of red and near-infrared light and shine them directly onto human tissue.
Like shining a red light on your leg or something.
Yeah, exactly. Those photons have the ability to physically penetrate the skin. They bypass the melanin on the surface and travel straight into the cells, right down into the mitochondria.
And sitting inside that mitochondria is a chromophore just waiting for that specific wavelength.
Exactly. There is a specific enzyme complex called cytochrome T oxidase. It absorbs that red and near-infrared light, and when it absorbs that photon, it literally upregulates the production of ATP.
Which is cellular energy.
Right. It kicks the mitochondria into a higher gear.
Yeah.
It also reduces oxidative stress and modulates gene transcription. You're using a literal beam of light to turn on a metabolic engine and rewrite how the cell behaves.
Which speeds up healing and reduces inflammation. Wait, hold on. You're telling me we are essentially photosynthesizing, not for food, like a plant making sugar, but for information and healing.
Yes.
If I shine a specific light on my knee, the cells in my knee are eating that light and using it to repair tissue.
That is a phenomenal way to frame it. Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Plants use photons to build physical mass. Humans use photons to download data and trigger maintenance programs in our BioGeoSeal.
That is just...
We are light-driven machines just as much as we are chemically-driven ones.
That is wild. And there's another example from the text that I think, honestly, everyone listening will relate to. Melanopsin.
Oh, melanopsin is a great example.
Yeah, we used to think melanopsin was just a pigment in the eye that had something to do with the pupil reacting to light. But melanopsin is highly sensitive to blue light.
And its role is far more profound than just pupil dilation. When you intentionally expose yourself to bright morning sunlight, which is super rich in blue light, you are hitting those melanopsin chromophores, and they don't send an image to your visual cortex, just like, look, a tree. Instead, they send an immediate, non-visual electrical signal directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain.
The master clock of the body.
Right. That signal instantly shuts off melatonin production and syncs your entire endocrine system, your hormones, your digestion, your alertness, to the actual spin of the Earth.
Wow.
You are using light to synchronize your biological software with the planetary environment.
So if I can use a metaphor here, it's like we are covered in microscopic solar panels, but instead of generating electricity to run a toaster, they are downloading software updates from the environment directly into our nervous system.
That's exactly it.
Which means if I stay inside all day staring at a screen or, I have bright fluorescent lights on at midnight, my solar panels are downloading junk data.
Absolute junk data.
My biodigesel starts glitching. I get insomnia, my metabolism wrecks, my mood plummets.
And the text suggests exactly that. Intentional chromophory is the deliberate practice of managing this light diet, modulating your physiological state via light, movement, and intention.
You are consciously programming the biological software instead of letting modern artificial environments program it for you.
Precisely.
So light acts as an electromagnetic wave that physically triggers our biology. But the source material doesn't stop at light, which is crazy to me. It goes even deeper. If light triggers us, what happens when we look at the fundamental vibrations of the atoms themselves? Because literally everything is vibrating.
We are stepping down from the molecular, the chromophores, into the atomic and subatomic level here.
Found another level.
Yeah. The text posits that the BioG-Shield operates through vibrational resonances. This is the absolute most fundamental level of physical signaling in any biological system.
And the text introduces this concept of biological atomic resonances, and it mentions nuclear magnetic resonance, or NMR, of cellular water protons. Now, when I see the phrase nuclear magnetic resonance on a page, my brain just starts to shut down.
It sounds intimidating.
It sounds like terrifying quantum physics that belongs in a particle collider or something. But we actually use this every day in standard medicine, don't we?
We do. NMR is the exact underlying physics of an MRI machine, magnetic resonance imaging.
Oh, they just dropped the word nuclear.
Yeah, they dropped nuclear so patients wouldn't get scared, but it's the exact same physics.
Mm.
An MRI works specifically because the protons inside the hydrogen atoms of the water molecules in your body have a property called spin.
Spin, okay.
They have tiny magnetic moment. They act like microscopic compass needles.
Okay, so I am full of billions of tiny compass needles.
You are. And when you lie down inside a massive MRI magnet, all those tiny compass needles align with the magnetic field. Then, the machine hits your body with a specific radio frequency pulse, right? A wave. Those protons absorb that energy and resonate. They literally flip their spin direction. And when the machine turns the radio pulse off, those protons relax back to their original alignment.
And when they relax, they release that energy back out.
They emit an echo, a radio frequency echo. And since different tissues have different amounts of water, they echo differently. The MRI computer just listens to all those billions of atomic echoes and uses them to build a highly detailed 3D image of your brain or your knee or whatever.
So we already accept as medical fact that our atoms can be made to resonate and broadcast an electromagnetic signal.
Yes. We accept it mechanically, sure. We know the machine works.
Right.
But the text doesn't just limit this to water protons inside a giant medical device. It talks about the vibrational resonances of chemical bonds, like oxygen-hydrogen bonds, carbon-hydrogen bonds.
It's just everyday chemical bonds in our body.
Exactly. It says these can be measured using infrared and Raman spectroscopy. And it even mentions the electronic resonances of the aromatic molecules in our DNA.
Our DNA.
Yes. Our DNA, the blueprint of our entire existence, is vibrating at measurable specific frequencies.
Which forces us to ask a deeply uncomfortable but mathematically necessary question, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
If our bodies are fundamentally composed of vibrating, resonating chemical bonds, protons, and electrons, all generating tiny magnetic and electromagnetic fields, then what happens when one resonating body comes into close physical proximity with another resonating body?
Okay, yes. This is where the synthesis of the hard physics and the human experience gets completely wild.
It really does. The sources include some autobiographical observations from the author of this framework, detailing a theory of charge, recharge, and discharge.
Right. Because our biological molecules are constantly resonating, the human brain and the human heart are not closed systems.
They're open.
They generate measurable electromagnetic field that extend outside the skin.
The human heart generates an electromagnetic field that extends several feet outward, doesn't it?
It does. The brain generates one as well, though it's slightly weaker. The author realized, through this really intense empirical observation of their own nervous system and environment, that people act as dynamic, energetic systems interacting with each other constantly.
Okay, let me ground this in a scenario, because I think literally every single person listening has experienced this. I had this happen last week.
Tell me.
I was on a train, feeling perfectly fine. And I sat next to a guy who was just visibly stressed. He was tapping his foot, breathing shallow and heavy, just radiating anxiety.
You've all been there.
Right. Within 5 minutes, without exchanging a single word with him, I felt a knot in my stomach. My own heart rate spiked. I felt incredibly drained when I got off the train. We usually write that off as catching a bad vibe or just, empathy.
Empathy, right.
But you're telling me my body was actually trying to entrain to his chaotic electromagnetic frequency.
Yes. The biogestal framework argues that this is not just a psychological metaphor. It is literal neurobiological synchronization. It is the physiological coupling of two resonant frequencies.
Wow.
In physics, there is a well-documented phenomenon called entrainment. If you take two pendulum clocks and hang them on the same wall and start their pendulums swinging at totally different rates, the tiny vibrations traveling through the wood of the wall will eventually force the two pendulums to swing in perfect synchronization.
Really? Just from the wood?
Just from the wood. They sync up because the energy wants to find the most efficient harmonic state.
Okay, so apply that to human electromagnetic fields.
Right. If one oscillator, the stress band on the train, is highly erratic and chaotic, and the other oscillator is relatively stable, the stable system has to do physical biological work to try and pull the chaotic system into a harmonic rhythm.
Or to resist being pulled into chaos itself.
Exactly. And that biological work is what you experience as feeling drained. Your system is expending actual energy to maintain its own coherence against his chaotic resonance.
So I am literally discharging energy.
You are discharging energy. Conversely, if you sit near someone with a deeply coherent, highly regulated nervous system, someone who is calm, grounded, and present their resonant frequency entrains yours.
My system doesn't have to work as hard to find peace.
Right. It just syncs up to their stable rhythm. You feel recharged.
It makes social interactions sound like a quantum physics experiment.
Because it is a physics experiment.
Yeah.
And this framework completely validates those intuitive feelings we all have. We're literally broadcasting and receiving atomic echoes all day long.
Which explains so much about group dynamics, honestly.
Yeah. Our physical health, our mental state, our trauma, and our joy are all broadcasted subatomically. The biogestal is constantly reading the room, not just with eyes and ears, but through the electromagnetic resonance of the environment.
That includes the Schumann resonance too, right? The text briefly touched on that.
Oh, yes. The Schumann resonances are a set of spectrum peaks in the extremely low frequency portion of the Earth's electromagnetic field.
Like the Earth's heartbeat.
Exactly. And human brainwaves naturally entrain to these frequencies. It's all connected.
Okay, so if we are broadcasting these atomic electromagnetic fields outward and absorbing light waves inward, what happens when physical force is applied, when someone actually touches you?
Now we get into the tissue level.
Because I always thought of muscles and connective tissue as just mechanical structures like ropes and pulleys. But the source material introduces a concept that completely changed my view of the physical body. Let's talk about piezoelectric fascias and mechanical signals.
We are moving from the atomic back up to the tissue level, but looking at it through a very specific lens. The fascia.
Let's redefine fascia first, because if you asked me yesterday, I would have said fascia is just the wrapping paper of the muscles. It's that tough, white connective tissue you see when you're preparing a raw chicken breast or something. It just holds the meat in place.
That's the common perception.
But the text frames the fascial network as an internal skin spanning the entire body from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, acting as a piezoelectric transducer. Yep. Okay, what is piezoelectricity?
Piezoelectricity is a property of certain solid materials, like quartz crystals, DNA, and various proteins, where applying physical mechanical pressure actually generates an electrical charge.
Okay, pressure makes electricity.
Right. The word piezo comes from the Greek word for press or squeeze. If you take a quartz crystal and squeeze it or strike it, it generates a spark of electricity. That's literally how the igniter in a standard cigarette lighter works.
Wait, really?
Yeah. A little hammer hits a piezo crystal, and the resulting electrical spark lights the gas.
Okay, and the sources document this happening in human biology. My connective tissue creates sparks.
Well, not sparks that will light a fire, but measurable electrical currents, yes. The text cites research by Fukada and Yasuda, who documented this in Bones back in 1964.
Bone is piezoelectric.
Bone is heavily piezoelectric.
Yeah.
And then Robert Becker, in his seminal 1985 book, The Body Electric, and James Oshman in 2000, extended this to the fascias, tendons, and collagen.
Collagen, the stuff in our skin and joints.
Right. The crystalline structure of the collagen in your fascia generates an electric current when it is compressed or stretched.
So if a massage therapist presses on my back, the collagen in my fascia is physically converting that mechanical pressure into an electrical signal that travels through my body.
Yes, the mechanical tension is the electrical signal. But the text takes this a massive step further. It applies the physics of granular media to human biology, which is a conceptual leap of absolute genius.
Okay, the physics of granular media. I'm looking at the text here, and it mentions a rather intimidating equation.
Of rheology.
Yeah, the rheology equation mu of I, where I is the inertial number.
Right.
My understanding of physics stopped at dropping a bowling ball and a feather in high school. You're going to have to unpack this for us.
It's actually very intuitive once you picture it. Granular physics is the study of materials composed of many distinct solid particles. Think of sand, or coffee beans, or a bucket of gravel.
Okay.
What's fascinating about granular media is that they can act like a solid, a liquid, or a gas, depending entirely on how they are manipulated and the pressure applied to them.
Right, because if I pour a bucket of dry sand onto the ground, it flows like water, it acts like a liquid.
Exactly. In that state, the grains are sliding past each other rapidly. The inertial number that in the equation which describes the ratio of inertial forces to pressure forces is high. The material is fluid.
Got it.
But if you take that same sand, put it in a strong plastic bag, and use a vacuum to suck all the air out, the atmospheric pressure pushes the grains of sand together so tightly that they physically interlock.
They can no longer slide past each other.
Right. The sand becomes as hard as a rock. The inertial number drops to essentially zero. This phenomenon is called the jamming transition, or glass phase transition.
Jamming transition.
Yeah. The material transitions from a fluid state into a solid jam state purely because of pressure, not temperature.
Okay, and how in the world does a bag of vacuum-sealed sand apply to my squishy human body?
Well, the text models the complex three-dimensional network of collagen fibers in our fascia as a dense, amorphous, granular medium.
Okay.
Under normal active movement, the fibers are sliding past each other, the tissue is somewhat fluid. But when you apply specific, sustained physical pressure, like the light, static touch of Reiki, or holding a highly specific, static hand posture known as a mudra in yoga, you are fundamentally altering the macroscopic shear forces on this tissue.
So when I hold perfectly still in a specific geometric posture, I am dropping the inertial number of my fascia to zero.
You are inducing a localized jamming transition. The fascial tissue solidifies slightly. It stabilizes the matrix. It becomes locked and coherent.
And what does that do?
In physics, a stabilized, jammed matrix allows low-frequency elastic waves to conduct perfectly through the medium without scattering.
I am trying to visualize this. It reminds me of making oobleck with my kids. Cornstarch and water.
Oh, a shear thickening fluid. That is the perfect analogy for what is happening at a biomechanical level.
Right, because if you poke a ball of oobleck slowly, your finger goes right in. It acts like a liquid. But if you punch it or apply sudden sustained pressure, it instantly acts like a solid.
Exactly.
What you're saying is our connective tissue responds to pressure in a similar way. The right kind of static pressure reorganizes our fascia from a loose, jumbled, liquid-like state into a highly conductive, solid-state network.
Yes.
And because collagen is piezoelectric, this solid-state network becomes a flawless semiconductor for electrical data.
It creates a continuum. By holding a mudra or applying static therapeutic touch, you lock the fascial network into a state where it can flawlessly transmit mechanical and electrical signals across the entire body.
Bypassing the central nervous system entirely.
Completely bypassing the nerves. This is how chronic tension can be released instantly across the body. The BioGyShield uses this mechanical tension to send electrical data.
That is staggering. But the text doesn't stop there. It introduces another equation, the Darcy-Brinkman equation.
Ah, yes. It's a beautiful piece of math that perfectly complements the granular physics we just talked about.
Walk me through it.
While the collagen fibers act as the solid structure, we have to remember they are bathed in liquid. The Darcy-Brinkman equation describes how fluid flows through a porous, sponge-like medium.
Think of interstitial fluid, the liquid surrounding all our cells, trying to move through the sponge-like matrix of the fascia.
Right. The text explains that during touch therapy, like when someone places their hands on you, there are two things happening. First, the mechanical pressure alters the permeability of the tissue, as we just discussed with the jamming transition.
Right, the pressure.
But second, there's the slight thermal heat radiating from the human hand.
Just normal body heat.
Exactly. The beta symbol in the Darcy-Brinkman equation stands for the coefficient of thermal expansion. When the heat from a practitioner's hand transfers to your skin, it slightly expands the interstitial fluid beneath it.
Okay, the fluid expands.
And this expansion alters the pressure gradient. So the combination of static mechanical pressure and thermal heat literally acts as a microscopic hydrodynamic pump.
Wow. So a practitioner placing their hand on you isn't just offering psychological comfort. They aren't just, sending good energy in a metaphysical sense.
No, the physical heat of their hand is creating a literal microconvection current in the fluid of your fascia.
They are pumping stagnant interstitial fluid.
They are clearing out inflammatory markers and bringing in fresh oxygen and nutrients. The healing is driven by hard thermodynamics and hydrodynamics.
It completely demystifies touch therapies like Reiki, acupressure, or osteopathy.
It does. It's not magic. It's not placebo. It is granular rheology and fluid dynamics.
It's the absolute unification of ancient practice and modern physics. The ancients knew that it worked, and now we know how it works down to the equation.
Which brings us to perhaps the most mind-blowing aspect of the BioJushin.
Yes, I know exactly where you're going.
If our tissue acts as a semiconductor for pressure and heat, what is the ultimate signal traveling through this biological circuitry?
We've talked about electrical currents and atomic vibrations, but the most profound signal is light itself. Let's talk about biophotons and cellular semantics.
This is where it gets truly wild.
I'll be completely honest with you. When I first read this part of the source material, I had to put the papers down, walk into the kitchen, and just stare at the wall for a minute.
I don't blame you.
The text claims that living cells emit light, coherent light. Now, as someone who tries to stay grounded in science, the phrase humans emit light sounds suspiciously like New Age aura reading.
Are you telling me I am physically glowing right now?
You are. It is called ultra-weak photon emission, or UPE.
Ultra-weak photon emission.
Yes. And while it sounds like science fiction or mysticism, it was definitively documented by a German theoretical biophysicist named Fritz Albert Popp in 1976.
How did he prove it? Because I look at my arm right now and I definitely don't see a glow. He proved it using highly sensitive photomultiplier tubes. These are devices designed to detect single photons of light in absolutely pitch black darkness.
Okay.
When you put living biological tissue into complete darkness and use these detectors, you find that the cells emit photons in the visible and near UV spectrum.
But wait, how is this different from bioluminescence? Like a firefly or one of those deep-sea anglerfish. We know animals can make light.
It is fundamentally different. Fireflies use a very specific, energy-intensive enzymatic reaction, usually involving a chemical called luciferase.
Right.
They do that to create a bright, visible light for a specific purpose, like mating or hunting. Biophotons are not a specialized trick. They are a fundamental property of all living cells.
Oh, all cells.
All of them. They originate primarily from the oxidative metabolism inside your mitochondria.
Engine exhaust.
Exactly. As your cells produce energy, they produce reactive oxygen species, or ROS. As these molecules interact and relax, they release photons. This is a fundamental byproduct of cellular respiration. You are glowing right now, but at an intensity about 1,000 times weaker than the absolute limit of sensitivity of the naked human eye. That's why you can't see it in a mirror.
Okay, so it's a faint glow of exhaust. But the sources note that the emission patterns differ distinctly between healthy cells and malignant cells, right?
Yes, very distinctly.
A cancer cell glows differently than a healthy cell. It's almost like looking at the diagnostic lights on a router. If it's blinking red instead of steady green, you know the software has a bug.
And that is the crucial biophysical insight here. The light isn't just random, chaotic exhaust. It has coherence. It has structure.
It carries data.
It carries data about the metabolic state of the cell. But for a long time, the massive question in biology was, how does this weak light travel through the dense, watery environment of the human body without just being absorbed and lost instantly?
Right. If I shine a really weak flashlight into a muddy pond, the light doesn't go very far.
To understand how biophotons travel, we have to completely change how we think about the water inside our bodies. The text leans heavily on the physics of exclusion zone, or EZ, water.
Easy water. I always pictured the water in my cells as just liquid water. Like what's in a glass just slosh around inside me.
Most of the bulk water in your body is exactly that. But right next to hydrophilic, which means water-loving surfaces, water does something extraordinary.
And the collagen in our fascial network is hydrophilic, right?
It is highly hydrophilic.
Mm-hmm.
When water sits directly against that fascial tissue, it restructures itself. It physically transitions from H2O liquid into a crystalline gel-like phase with the chemical formula H3O2-.
It becomes a liquid crystal.
It does. This is the exclusion zone. It's called that because this structured gel phase physically excludes solutes and impurities.
Like a filter.
Sort of, but more importantly, it creates a massive charge separation. The EZ layer is negatively charged, and the bulk water next to it is positively charged.
Wait, negative and positive? Yeah, that's a battery.
Yes. Your fascia is essentially coated in a microscopic, body-wide battery.
And how do biophotons interact with this gel water battery?
The text explains that the combination of sound, light, and mechanical pressure, all the things we've been talking about so far, actually expands this EZ layer.
It makes the battery bigger.
It makes the crystalline battery bigger. And when the EZ layer expands, it allows for a phenomenon called the Grothus mechanism.
The Grothus mechanism. We need to visualize this. What is a proton doing in this scenario?
Think of the Grothus mechanism like a bucket brigade trying to put out a fire.
Okay, a bucket brigade.
If you have regular liquid water, a proton, which is a positively charged hydrogen ion, has to physically swim through the fluid to carry an electrical charge from point A to point B.
It's like one person carrying a heavy bucket of water all the way from the well to the fire.
Right. It's slow, it's inefficient, and there's a lot of resistance.
But in structured EZ water.
In the crystalline lattice of EZ water, the protons don't have to swim. They just jump from one water molecule to the next, almost instantaneously.
Like a line of people just passing the bucket rapidly from hand to hand.
Exactly. It allows for ultra-fast, almost frictionless proton conduction.
Oh, wow. So the fascial network, which we already established is a piezoelectric semiconductor, is coated in this crystalline EZ water, which acts as a frictionless superhighway for protons.
You're getting it.
And the biophotons, the coherent light emitted by the cells, are traveling through this highly structured optical network.
You are hitting on the core mechanism of the entire framework right there. The convergence of biophotons, the piezoelectricity from mechanical pressure, and the atomic resonances we discussed earlier. They all flow coherently through this structured water and fascial network.
Which brings us to the concept of cellular semantics from the text.
Cellular semantics, yes.
The idea that the biogel doesn't just function mechanically, it speaks. It has a literal language.
Well, if you have electrical pulses, coherent light waves, and acoustic vibrations all traveling flawlessly through a semiconducting liquid crystal matrix, you have the physical infrastructure for a highly complex language.
The cells are talking to each other?
They are constantly communicating their metabolic state, their stress levels, their spatial orientation, and not just through slow-moving chemical hormones in the blood, but instantly, at the speed of light and sound, through the fascial web.
The biogel is an information processing network of unimaginable sophistication.
It really is.
Yeah.
Which sets up this brilliant expert insight from the text regarding what they call global convergence.
Right.
The sources point out that ancient traditions empirically understood this cellular language thousands of years before we had photomultipliers to detect biophotons or MRI machines to detect atomic resonance.
This is the part that gave me goosebumps, because the translation of ancient anthropological terms into modern biophysics is one of the most profound parts of this entire framework.
It's beautiful. Take the concept of qi or qi from traditional Asian medicine, specifically in martial arts and acupuncture.
We usually translate it vaguely in the West as vital energy or life force, which, sounds entirely mystical.
It does. But the text aligns qi with hard physics. It aligns it perfectly with the dynamics of ionic depolarization currents and microcirculatory fluid flows.
So qi is literally the physics we just talked about.
Yes, the ultrafast proton conduction of the Grothus mechanism and the fluid dynamics of the Darcy-Brinkman flow we just talked about. That is qi. It is the movement of charge and fluid through the fascial matrix.
And what about psi, SI?
Psi is often translated as breath or subtle information. The biogel framework aligns this with the geometry of stationary acoustic and photonic waves propagating through the body's cavities.
So it's the structural information guiding the movement of the G.
Exactly. It's the data encoded in the biophotons.
And finally, Ti.
Ti represents the supreme physical expression, the central axis. In this framework, this is the global somatic resonance. It is the mechanical alignment of the fascial chains undergoing that piezoelectric jamming transition, acting as a unified, coherent whole.
It's absolutely staggering. These ancient practitioners didn't have Raman spectroscopy. They didn't know the chemical formula for exclusion zone water.
Nope.
But by cultivating deep, sustained empirical awareness of their own biogel, through meditation, breath work, and precise physical postures, they map the exact same unified physics that quantum biology is only now uncovering.
They map the software from the user interface side, while modern biophysics is mapping it from the machine code side. But it is the exact same operating system.
Okay, let me catch my breath because the implications here are massive. We have this incredibly complex, unified physics of the living. We are vibrating, light-emitting, piezoelectric, liquid crystal antennas.
A lot to take in.
It is. And the obvious next question for anyone listening is, how do I actively interact with and optimize this system? If my BioJShell is an open architecture constantly receiving data, how do I feed it the right data?
Right. How do we regulate it?
Exactly. Let's move into regulating the BioJShell, focusing heavily on sound and spatial geometry.
We'll start with sound, because acoustic pressure is one of the most direct ways to hack the biological software. The text details the neurophysiology of how sound waves literally turn off stress.
Walk us through the pathway. A sound wave enters my ear. What happens next?
Okay. Acoustic vibrations hit the cochlea in your inner ear, and lower frequencies also hit mechanoreceptors in your skin.
Like when you feel the bass at a concert.
Exactly. That physical vibration is translated into an electrical signal that projects directly into the solitary tract nucleus, or NTS, located in the brainstem.
And the NTS is significant because?
Because it is the command center for the vagus nerve. When you listen to harmonic, coherent sound, whether it's specific frequencies of music, chanting, or natural sounds like a river, it instantly activates the vagus nerve.
And the vagus nerve is the main brake pedal for our fight-or-flight stress response.
Precisely. And the text maps exactly how that brake pedal works. Vagal activation inhibits the release of corticotropin-releasing hormone, or CRH, from the hypothalamus.
Okay, CRH drops.
When CRH stops, a cascade effect happens, and your adrenal glands stop pumping out cortisol, the primary stress hormone. And the text notes that the clearance of cortisol from the blood follows a strict mathematical exponential decay curve.
So it's fast.
It's incredibly fast. You don't just feel a bit more relaxed. The literal chemical markers of stress in your blood are mathematically eliminated.
But sound doesn't just clear the bad stuff, right? It triggers the good stuff, too. The text says acoustic vibrations trigger the release of oxytocin and endogenous opioids, our body's natural painkillers.
Yes. And here is where the text gets incredibly granular about the physics of pain relief. It mentions K2P channels.
I need you to explain these because it sounds like a literal mute button for pain.
That is exactly what they are. K2P stands for potassium two-pore domain channels. Think of them as tiny exhaust valves on the surface of your nerve cells.
Okay, tiny exhaust valves.
When oxytocin and natural opioids flood your system due to harmonic sound vibrations, they bind to receptors that pop these K2P valves open.
Specifically ones like the TrkA1 channel, the text mentioned.
Right, the TrkA1 channel. When these valves open, potassium ions rush out of the cell.
And potassium leaving the cell changes the electrical charge?
It causes massive hyperpolarization. The inside of the cell becomes so negatively charged that it becomes biophysically impossible for it to fire an electrical signal.
Meaning?
Meaning, if that cell happens to be a pain receptor or a neuron signaling panic and anxiety, it is instantly, physically silenced. It is a biological mute button triggered purely by sound waves interacting with protein channels.
It's amazing. We think of music as entertainment or cultural expression, but at an atomic level, it is an acoustic pharmaceutical.
That's a great way to put it.
We are feeding harmonic data into the BioJShell to hyperpolarize our pain receptors.
Exactly. But the BioJShell isn't just regulated by sound. It is deeply regulated by light and space. And the text offers an analysis of something that completely blew my mind.
Yeah.
The Karasansui.
The Japanese dry gardens, the Zen gardens with the carefully placed rocks and the meticulously raked gravel.
Those are the ones.
I've always found them beautiful, but I just viewed them as landscaping. Or a nice place to sit.
Most people do. But the text analyzes the Karasansui not as art, but as a biophysical regulator. A piece of applied architectural technology designed to optimize human physics.
Break that down for me. How is a garden a piece of medical technology? Let's start with the gravel itself. The text points out the physical properties of the quartz gravel used in these gardens.
Right. The gravel is usually decomposed granite or pure quartz. And quartz has a very specific crystallographic property, a high albedo.
Albedo is a measure of reflectivity.
Yes. The microscopic roughness of the naturally eroded quartz grains diffuses sunlight perfectly. It creates an optimal luminous environment without harsh specular glare.
So it's feeding perfect stabilized photons into our chromophores.
Exactly. And the quartz also dissipates heat very effectively, creating subtle microconvection currents in the air, which we register on our skin. But the real genius is in the raked patterns.
The ways in the gravel, the monks spend hours raking those concentric rings and parallel lines.
When the monks rake those gardens, they are applying the exact granular physics we discussed earlier with the sand and the fascia. The angle of repose of the material determines how the crests of the waves hold their shape. But visually, to the human eye, these concentric rings and parallel lines act as optical metamaterials.
Optical metamaterials, that sounds like something out of a cloaking device in a sci-fi movie.
It does, but a metamaterial is simply a structure engineered to interact with waves, in this case light waves, in a specific way. When you sit and look at those raked patterns, the geometry guides your eyes naturally toward the rocks, which act as points of singularity.
Okay, so it guides your vision.
And this geometry physically stabilizes what are called saccadic eye movements.
Saccadic eye movements, those are those rapid, involuntary micro-movements our eyes make constantly, right? Like when you're walking down a busy city street, your eyes are darting everywhere, scanning for cars, people, threats.
Yes. High saccadic movement is intimately tied to high cognitive load and a heightened sympathetic nervous system. You are constantly scanning for danger.
Right.
The optical geometry of the Kerasan-Sui stops that scanning. It physically stabilizes the eye. And then there is the concept of Ma, M-A.
The visual void, the empty space in the garden.
The utilization of empty space drastically lowers the sensory load on the brain. When saccadic eye movements stabilize and the sensory load drops, the brain naturally shifts out of the default mode network, which is often the state of anxious rumination, and shifts into alpha and theta wave states.
Alpha waves are around 8 to 12 hertz, which signals calm vigilance. And theta waves, 4 to 7 hertz, correlate with deep integration and meditation.
So just by sitting on a wooden veranda and letting photons bounce off raked quartz gravel into your retina, you shut down the production of CRH, drop your cortisol levels, and shift your brainwaves into a regenerative state.
It's a profound shift in how we need to understand architecture and space. Think about a standard hospital room.
Oh, it's a nightmare for the biologist.
Right. Bright, flickering fluorescent lights, beeping machines with harsh alarms, hard plastic surfaces everywhere. We put sick people in an environment that is feeding a chaotic, highly stressful data directly into their biogy shell.
We are ramping up their inertial number, flooding their system with cortisol, and then wondering why they aren't healing fast enough.
Meanwhile, a Kerasan-Sui is feeding coherent geometry, expanding the EZ water, and dropping the system into an alpha state automatically. We build spaces to house bodies, but this research says we need to be engineering spaces for the biogy shell.
Which perfectly transitions us to the final implications of this entire framework. We have mapped the deep physics from light absorption to atomic resonance, from piezoelectric pressure to biophotons. We see how sound and space regulate the system. But what does this mean for humanity as a whole?
Right. What is the philosophical conclusion of extension XXXV?
That brings us to the concept of the Nobel all-time. The ultimate Nobel.
What does this represent in the context of this research?
It represents the holy grail of human knowledge, the ultimate unification paradigm. For a century, we have awarded Nobel Prizes in physics, in chemistry, in medicine, and in peace as if they were entirely separate, isolated domains of human achievement.
As if chemistry doesn't talk to physics.
Right. The biogestual framework suggests that the ultimate discovery is the point where they all perfectly overlap.
The point where the physics of granular jamming explains the medical reality of fascial release, which explains the biochemical clearance of cortisol, which leads to the psychological state of peace.
Exactly. It's the unification of consciousness, cellular healing, and fundamental physics into a single, elegant equation.
And the text highlights a crucial, world-changing social implication of this unification. Systemic inclusivity.
Yes.
Let's talk about that, because I think this is perhaps the most important point in the entire deep dive. When we talk about advanced healing or biohacking or optimizing human performance today, it usually comes with a massive price tag.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you access this healing? Do you need $1 million pharmaceutical? Do you need 10 years of rigorous cognitive behavioral therapy that you have to pay a professional out of pocket for?
Do you need to be perfectly able-bodied to do complex yoga sequences? You need to be highly educated to understand the biochemical pathways. The answer this text provides is a resounding no.
You just need light, sound, touch, Spatial geometry.
You just need the physical universe.
That's incredible.
These physical mechanisms, chromophores absorbing photons, fascias responding to mechanical pressure via the jamming transition, the vagus nerve hyperpolarizing cells via acoustics, they require absolutely no active motor participation from the patient.
You don't have to do anything.
They require no cognitive learning or belief in the system. They do not care about your socioeconomic wealth, your gender, or your level of formal education.
They speak directly to the atomic reality of the human body.
They bypass every single human-made barrier of class, privilege, and ability. It is absolute, profound systemic inclusivity. If you have a nervous system, you are wired for this. You can receive static touch. You can feel acoustic resonance in your tissues, even if you are entirely deaf. You can absorb light. The capacity for profound physiological and psychological regulation is built into the angstrom-level hardware of every single human being on Earth. The healing mechanisms are democratized by the fundamental laws of physics.
That is incredibly empowering. It takes the power of healing out of the hands of exclusive institutions and puts it back into the fundamental physics of the environment.
It really does. But the author's synthesis goes even further. They extrapolate this biology into a wild cosmological view, summarized by the phrase, "We are mutants in perpetual mutation."
Mutants in perpetual mutation. It's a breathtaking conclusion that challenges how we view ourselves in time.
Definitely.
Because we tend to think of human evolution as something that happened slowly over millions of years, and now here we are, Homo sapiens, the finished product. The BioGeol framework shatters that static view.
Because our biological software is constantly rewriting itself based on environmental inputs.
Precisely. Light, diet, stress, trauma, sound, they are constantly triggering epigenetic changes. Genes are being turned on and off. EZ water layers are expanding and contracting. Biophoton emissions are shifting. We are evolving in real time.
Changes are occurring in decades, not millennia.
We are dynamic, open systems. The universe has been complexifying since the Big Bang. From simple stardust to complex atoms to cellular biology to conscious thought. And our biology, our BioGeol, isn't just sitting passively in this universe.
No, it is the very frontier of that complexification.
We aren't observing the universe. We are the universe actively reconfiguring itself through our physical experiences.
We are mutants in perpetual mutation. It means you are not stuck. Whatever you are dealing with right now, your trauma, your stress, your physical ailments, they are simply the current configurations of your software based on the data you've received so far.
Right.
But the software is explicitly designed to be updated. It's designed to be repolarized, rejammed, re-eliminated. You are not a broken machine. You are an antenna waiting for a clearer signal.
Okay. Let's take a deep breath and recap this incredible journey, because we have covered an immense amount of ground today.
We really have.
We started by looking at our hands and questioning the meat suit. We dove down to the angstrom. We explored how chromophores act as microscopic cellular receivers, absorbing light to program our mitochondria and sync our circadian rhythms.
We looked at the atomic resonance of our chemical bonds, understanding that we are vibrating on a subatomic level, and how our electromagnetic fields charge and discharge through social entrainment.
We proved that catching a vibe is literal neurobiological synchronization.
And we learned about the piezoelectric properties of our connective tissue, how applying specific pressure induces a jamming transition, turning our fascia from a liquid-like state into a solid-state semiconductor.
Using thermal heat to pump interstitial fluid and clear inflammation.
Right. And then we revealed the existence of biophotons, the coherent light emitted by the oxidative metabolism of our cells, traveling at lightning speed via the Grothus mechanism through crystalline, easy water, to create a literal cellular language.
And we saw how we can hack this entire BioGeol using the acoustics of sound to pop open K2P potassium channels and silence pain, and how the optical metamaterials of a Zen garden can shift our brainwaves into theta states.
Finally, we arrived at the ultimate Nobel. The realization that human healing is rooted in absolute systemic inclusivity, driven by the physics of a mutating universe.
It is a paradigm shift of the highest order. It changes what it means to be a physical being.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought. Think back to the very beginning. Think back to looking at your hands. We established that your body is an open architecture.
It is.
It is a biological software program that is constantly rewriting itself based on the light you absorb, the vibrations of the people around you, and the acoustic pressures of your environment.
Which means every single environment you place yourself in is a programming language.
That's exactly it. So ask yourself, What unintentional signals are you feeding your BioG shell right now? Is the harsh lighting in your office feeding you chaotic data?
Is the ambient noise of the city keeping your inertial number high and your cortisol pumping?
Are the people around you draining your atomic resonance or recharging it? If the matter you are made of has been stardust and has now evolved into a conscious resonating antenna, how will you choose to tune your resonant frequency tomorrow?
Will you seek out the light that heals, the spaces that stabilize, the people who recharge? The physics are there. The choice is literally in your hands.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the physics of the living. Keep questioning the invisible forces that shape our reality, and until next time, keep your antennas tuned.